Usually I don't do live shows on the weekend, but I wanted to give everybody an update on the condition of our executive producer, affectionately known as Joey Foster. A lot of people know this guy. Whenever I met him, I had been doing my channel for about a year and a half, and he saw something in my channel that not a lot of people saw. He saw potential. He saw a chance for a channel to really get popular, to grow, and he's put a lot of time and effort into this channel, and he's helped make it what it is today. And last night, I found this out earlier today. Last night, now this is from what I'm understanding. I'm not there, so I don't know it exactly. So if I'm wrong, if anybody else knows more, please correct me. But from what I'm hearing is last night he actually had a coughing spell, and I don't know what happened. Maybe he couldn't catch his breath or something, but he ended up falling over and broke his back in 2 spots. Freak accident. I don't know the circumstances. Last night he actually did the trivia show with Traveling Fools. They do it once a week, and it was actually a good show. I watched a good chunk of it. I didn't watch all of it, but I watched a good chunk of it. And he was fine. He was having fun. It was a good show, fun show. But I don't know what happened, but he's in the hospital. Last I heard, he's in ICU, and he is awake. He just can't talk. So y'all keep Joey Foster in your prayers. He's been a great help to this channel. And I made a video earlier about Pac-12 and Big 12 going to war. And I know a lot of people have been saying, Brett Yormark, the new commissioner of the Big 12, which he doesn't actually take over till tomorrow, actually, August 1st. He'll take over tomorrow. But he's, one of his slogans is the Big 12 is now open for business, talking about conference realignment. And I know a lot of people have said, Brett Yormark and George Kliavkoff, they're buddies, they're friends. So what George Kliavkoff said was all tongue-in-cheek. He was just having fun, not really serious, blah, blah, blah. But the response was I don't know. It seemed a little more than just tongue-in-cheek. It was his response, George Kliavkoff's response was, the Big 12 says they're open, and we appreciate that. The Pac-12, we appreciate that, but we're not looking there. We're not shopping there right now. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. All I know is that the Big 12 and the Pac-12, they're not in the best spot right now. The Big Ten and the SEC, they're king of the roost. They're going to decide what happens to college football. And it seems like the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC, they're all trying to figure out what their next moves are going to be. So whether these commissioners are friends or not, they have to make the right decision for their conference. So if the right decision is turning to your fellow conference who you're friends with the commissioner of that conference and grab some of their teams, you got to do it. Otherwise, you're the target. If you're not aggressive, and if you're not trying to get teams from another conference, then you become the target. So it could be the commissioner who's least aggressive and waits for things to happen. That could be the conference that falls next. And from the response that we heard from George Kliavkoff, it's looking like the Pac-12. They're actually still holding out hope that California can keep UCLA and USC from going to the Big Ten. What? Yeah. George Kliavkoff is holding out hope that the state of California and the Board of Regents can somehow, some way, keep USC and UCLA from going to the Big Ten. In my opinion, that's a done deal. Maybe they can delay UCLA going, and instead of UCLA and USC, this is worst case scenario for the Big Ten. Maybe it's not UCLA and USC, maybe it's Stanford and USC. Either way, they're going to get some great brands. USC is going, they're a private institution. California can't touch the Trojans. So I don't see it helping all that much. I mean, maybe you can keep UCLA from going, although I still don't think that happens. But still, you're losing some teams. And if you're not targeting Power 5 teams to replace those big brands that you're losing, it's not looking good because, let's face it, the Big 12 has went out and got the best group of 5 brands available: UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, and BYU. Who's left to actually help the Pac-12? Who's left? San Diego State? Decent, but, I mean, they don't bring in that much money. They have potential to bring in money. They just built themselves a new football stadium, but compared to USC and UCLA, they're not going to bring in money like that. Not even close. Boise State, we've been through this argument before. Boise State has a great football product. It's just their TV market is not big enough to make any kind of dent. Boise State's one of the teams where they were at the top of the list for a group of 5 teams to be promoted up to Power 5 status. But now that the Pac-12 is on shaky ground, and I'm talking about for the Big 12, they kind of fell to the bottom because now the Big 12 has the Pac-12 to choose from and then Boise State. Before the Pac-12 was kind of, well, they were actually stable before USC and UCLA. Boise State was never going to the Pac-12. Pac-12 made that abundantly clear. Boise State, their brand's not good enough for the Pac-12, so their only hope was to get into the Big 12. Well, now that the Pac-12 is open for pickings for the Big 12, Boise State went from the top. Now they're on the bottom because now the Big 12 is looking at Colorado. They're looking at an Arizona, an Arizona State, a Utah, even a Cal, Stanford. I don't know who they get out of the Big 12. I think that it's going to end up being the Arizona schools. I think the Big 12 picks up Arizona and Arizona State. Now, I heard that Colorado did put in their application for the Big 12, but then the higher-up said, nah, we don't like the Big 12. I think it's a pride thing. They know that they actually left the Big 12 to go to the Pac-12, and going back to the Big 12, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. But if that's what's best for Colorado, that's what they need to do. Now, Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten, I don't know if he slipped up or did it on purpose, but during Big Ten media days, he said that they're going to have a team that represents the 4 corners and a mountain time zone. But that could be Utah, that could be Colorado, that could be the Arizona schools. But if Colorado is flat out saying no to the Big 12, is it Colorado? Does Colorado know that they're headed to the Big 10 and they're like, sorry, Big 12, we already know we're going to the Big 10. Whoever the next teams are, they already know. These are conversations going on behind closed doors. We're just guessing. We'll find out whenever they tell us, but they already know. Same thing with the Big 12. Tomorrow's August 1st. It's going to be the first official day of Brett Yormark at the Big 12. I expect an announcement of new members of the Big 12. I expect it. Now, we'll see if it actually happens. The question is, if it does happen, is it going to be the 2 Arizona schools? Or did Colorado kind of pull a swerve and they're actually joining the Big 12? I don't know. Real quick, shout out to everybody in the chat. Appreciate you stopping by. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. It's not a pat on the shoulder or a good job going to Bluted. It just helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm, gets it suggested more. More people click on it. The audience grows. It's basically the best way to grow your video. Comments help too, so keep the comments going. If you want to get my attention, you have a question for me, a comment, a troll, you want to make fun of me, hey, I'm okay with that. Best way to get my attention is that little $sign down on your bottom right-hand corner, right under the chat. That is your super chat button. Anything you put in that super chat, I will put on the screen. If it's a question, I will ask the question and answer it to the best of my ability. If it's a comment, I'll read the comment and address it. And hey, even if it's a troll attempt trying to make fun of Going Unbluted, I'll still put it on the screen because you're supporting the channel and we appreciate it. A quick update on the march to 10,000 subscribers. We're still gaining pretty good clip every day. We're at 9,533, so that means we are, 467 subscribers by the end of the week. What's significant about that is we hit 9,000 on Saturday. So we went from 9,000 to over 9,500 in just over a week. That's a pretty good week. If we have another week like that, boom, 10,000 subscribers right off the bat. So, you can't count on a boom like that all the time. But even if we're steady, even if we're consistent, we will get to 10,000 subscribers by the Backyard Brawl, which is September 1st. And that's the goal. Mayhem Matthew, thank you for the $10 donation, says, supporting Joey, prayers and thoughts going out. Yes, that's one great thing about this YouTube community. Hundreds, if not thousands of people are praying for Joey, are thinking about Joey. Like it has been passed around. Pretty much everybody in the sports, especially college football YouTube community, is thinking about Joey. You have a lot of people on your side, buddy. We're praying for you. We're thinking about you. We're going to mention your name as much as we can, and you're gonna pull through, man. You're a strong individual. Like I said last time I checked on him, he is coherent. He is awake. He just can't talk right now, so he is breathing on his own. So pretty happy about that. What did y'all think about my my video earlier today? Whenever I was giving everybody's options, because whenever I do these conference realignment videos, they're not necessarily predictions. These are the different scenarios. These are the different avenues that conference realignment can take. I'm giving you what I'm hearing and then what makes sense from my opinion. Now, there's a few schools that I think no matter what, if their conference goes down the drain, they're done. They're not going to have a landing spot in a power conference. Those teams are Wake Forest, Boston College, Oregon State, Washington State, and the last one might surprise you, BYU. I don't think BYU would have a landing spot if the Big 12 went down. Why? Not because they don't have a good brand. BYU has a really good brand. The problem is if the Big 12 went under, the Pac-12's off the board. They've already turned down BYU multiple times because of their religious affiliation. The Big Ten has expressed they have no interest in BYU. The SEC, it wouldn't even really make sense to the SEC. The ACC, not only if there's somebody coming with BYU. And who would you pair up with BYU? I don't know. A Utah? I guess that's possible, but that's still a stretch. So BYU is one of those teams that I think, I just don't think there would be a landing spot for BYU. And then those other four, they kind of speak for themselves. I mean, they don't have big brands. Their fan bases aren't that big. Their TV market, not big at all. And the ACC is definitely kicking themselves in the rear end for taking Boston College, because they thought, here's the thinking behind the ACC taking Boston College. They thought they were grabbing that Boston market. Problem is, the city of Boston doesn't care about Boston College. They care about the Bruins, they care about the Patriots, and they care about the Celtics. They care about the professional teams, not the college team, not Boston College. That was a terrible mistake by the ACC. They're 100% wishing that they would have taken West Virginia over Boston College, or even West Virginia over Syracuse. Syracuse has great potential. They have a big fan base, but their fan base is not supporting them right now in football. So the better choice would have been West Virginia over both of those. West Virginia over Pitt. Yes, better brand than Pitt. But I would say bringing in Pitt and West Virginia together would have been very, very wise. That's the Backyard Brawl. There's you a big-time moneymaker right there just from the rivalry. So, But as far as choosing who to choose over who, West Virginia over Pitt. The only team that I say maybe has an argument over West Virginia as far as the latter part of ACC expansion was Louisville. I think Louisville is a better brand than West Virginia. Miami, the Hurricanes, they're a better brand. Virginia Tech, better brand. That's it, though. All the other choices that the ACC made, not good choices at all. Not good choices at all. And the ACC is paying for it. We see it right now. The only thing that's keeping the ACC together right now is the grant of rights. That's it. I put the hold on, guys. I'm going to re-put the StreamYard in here just in case anybody wants to join. I did at the beginning, but you know, it gets scrolled down a lot. Let me make sure I have everything right. X. I think that's right. Make sure. Sometimes these codes are crazy. There you go. There's StreamYard. Let me text Jeff and see if he wants to come in real quick, guys. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. I like it when Jeff Grimm jumps in because he has I like his opinions. He kind of thinks the way I do. We take what we're hearing and then we try to figure out our own conclusions. So not necessarily what's actually going to happen, but this is what we're hearing. So this is what makes sense to us. That's why I like Jeff coming on the show. But anybody else, if you want to jump on, that's fine as well. It's basically the same as a call-in show, except you're not using your phone. You're just using the internet. And if you don't like being on camera, that's fine too. I don't like this angle. There we go. That's much better. All you have to do is turn off your camera and you won't be on camera. And it's basically like calling in. All right. So there you go. But I think a lot of these teams are going to be fine no matter what. If their conference goes down the drain, they're going to be fine. For the Pac-12, the only two teams that I think not going to be fine whatsoever would be Oregon State, Washington State. They would probably end up joining the Mountain West. Stanford has a better brand than people realize. I think Stanford could go independent if they really wanted to. But I also think they have options in the Big Ten and the Big 12. They would have a lot of choices if they left the Pac-12 or if the Pac-12 went under. The only question I have with Stanford going to the Big Ten is how much of that hinges on Notre Dame. Because what I'm hearing is the Big Ten is trying to bring in Stanford with Notre Dame. So if Notre Dame doesn't go, does that mean that Stanford's not going? So that's one of their options that might depend on another team. That's 100% true about Duke. I don't think Duke can go anywhere without North Carolina. They need the Tar Heels to have pity on them and say, hey, we're not coming unless Duke comes. Otherwise, Duke brings nothing to the table. But other than Stanford in the Pac-12, there's Cal. I think Cal could get in the Big Ten or the Big 12. If the Big Ten says, nah, we're good, I think they could go to the Big 12. Same with Utah. I think Utah has a better shot of getting into the Big Ten than Cal. And maybe they bring in Utah and Stanford. That's a good combo. I would be okay with that. Arizona and Arizona State, the two Arizona schools, guys, I'm telling you right now, if you're an Arizona or an Arizona State fan, if the Pac-12 goes under, your only hope is the Big 12. You're not making it in the Big 10. Your brand is not big enough. It doesn't make sense for the SEC to stretch out that far because you don't bring in enough money. Same thing for the ACC. Your only hope is to get in the Big 12. And I'm actually expecting – oh, you are saying the link didn't work. I'm actually expecting for that to happen. Give me 1 second. They're saying the link didn't work. Probably missed one little keystroke. All it takes, one little misfire and it doesn't work. I'll get it this time though. I got you guys. All right, let me double check here. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. All right, that link should work for sure, guys. Oh, I didn't put it in the H. That's what it is. There you go. I got you guys. But yeah, for Arizona and Arizona State, if the Pac-12 goes under, Big 12. I'm expecting Arizona and Arizona State to be announced as new Big 12 members tomorrow. If that doesn't happen, they might be in trouble. If the Big 12 doesn't announce that they are bringing in Arizona and Arizona State within the next week, that's not good news for the Arizona schools. Not at all. Yeah, I agree. Arizona, I would say both the Arizona schools, not just Arizona State, but yeah, definitely Arizona State. Arizona State actually has a bigger TV market than Arizona. What's going on, Kenny?
Not much, man. What are you into? Sorry to hear about Joey, brother. I really like Joey a lot. I watched y'all stream last night, and I helped get Traveling Fools up to 1,000 last night.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Congratulations to Traveling Fools. He hit 1,000 subscribers last night, and that is a big time goal to hit as a YouTuber because that means you can officially start making a little bit of money. So congratulations to Traveling Fools. If y'all are not subscribed to him, he's a good channel. He's worth subscribing. Larry, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, not much. How you doing, Chris?
We're doing all right over here. We're doing all right. Holding it down. Thoughts and prayers going out to Joey. And last I heard, he is coherent. He just can't talk. So his condition is getting better. Last night he wasn't breathing. I don't know if people understand how serious it was. At one point he was not breathing. But he's breathing on his own. He's awake. He just can't talk. So it looks like his condition is getting better. So hopefully,
I watched the whole stream there, Golden Blue Dude, and there at the very end, Joey did not look right.
Yeah,
he did not look right.
Yeah,
something about he ended up having like a really bad coughing spell and kind of lost his breath and then fell off the chair or whatever and ended up actually breaking his back in 2 spots. That's crazy.
Wow.
Talk about a freak accident. That is insane. That is crazy. So
yeah, I thought
and he already has a bad back. I already know his history with his back. He's had multiple surgeries. So it was, his back was, a risk factor as far as whenever falling, but falling off a chair and breaking your back in 2 spots, that's not good. Not
stress fractures from the coughing along with the fall.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
So TND, am I saying your name right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And my previous YouTube handle was totally not depressed. It was just a meme name.
Oh, okay. I got you. So that's what it stands for.
Yeah, I just shortened it because, probably didn't want to, raise any alarms. You know how the world is.
I got you. Yeah, we know how the world is and how YouTube is, and they'll be like, "Oh, the word depressed is in there. We're going to take that down." But yeah. So what do y'all think
absolutely. But I was just going to give my 2 cents on conference realignment.
Okay, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so the Pac-12 and the Big 12 are pretty much going to war with each other over the Arizona schools. Colorado might be headed to the Big Ten since they pulled away at the last second. So Colorado might be going to the Big Ten, and they'll have the rivalry with Nebraska. Then you have Utah. I feel like Utah is in a good spot to join the Big 12 because they have the rivalry with BYU, the Holy War. So that's a rival for Utah, and they can also, trade punches with Baylor and TCU. But if say Arizona State go to the Big 12, then the Pac-12 could pick up San Diego State. But then that's where I come in. You could domino that into, who does the Mountain West pick up? And Mountain West could pick up one or both of the Montana schools. And the domino will just continue down the FCS like it did the first wave of conference realignment.
Yeah, that does make sense. I see where you're coming. Anthony Zappin, thank you for the $5 donation, says, "Let's go Mountaineers." Hey, I'll say that all day long. That is a great super chat. One of my all-time favorites.
Oh, yeah.
I get to say that and then in a nice donation, so we definitely appreciate that. I like where you're headed with that. It makes a lot of sense. And I agree with you, about Colorado, because the only way Colorado turning down the Big 12, the only way that makes sense is if they already know they're going to the Big 10. So I like how you connected the dots there. I'm right there with you. They very well may be headed to the Big 10 and nobody knows it yet. I don't know who they would be packaged with. Maybe a Stanford. It could be Colorado and Stanford going to the Big 10. Who knows? But if they're not headed to the Big Ten and they're turning down the Big 12, that is a serious, serious mistake. So their two options are either join the Big Ten or join the Big 12. Otherwise, they're making a bad decision.
Yeah, I don't know about Stanford because you would have to package them with Cal because that's their whole gimmick. Stanford and Cal are like the big Northern California rivalry.
I would agree with
And
that.
if they add Stanford, then Notre Dame has an even bigger argument of joining the Big Ten because that's what 3, 4, 5 rivals, all
Yeah.
Notre Dames in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So
And
then you
I've
have
heard
Notre
that
Dame.
that's one thing that the Big Ten has looked into. It wasn't like the main reason or the only reason why they brought USC and UCLA. Obviously, the money and the TV market was number one. But one of the side reasons is the
Recruiting.
Big Ten is trying to entice Notre Dame. So, okay, bring in USC. That doesn't do the trick. What else can we do? Oh, Stanford. What if, hey, Notre Dame. What if we bring in Stanford? We good then? You know, some of these moves are based on trying to attract Notre Dame because Notre Dame is the difference maker right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always has been, actually.
Yeah,
I'm
and the
saying-
reason why I say Notre Dame probably isn't going to go anywhere is because they're already set up without a conference. I mean, they have NBC. They've been established for so long. They pretty much don't need a conference. Joining one would be redundant for them.
Yeah.
I mean, Notre Dame
I
itself
don't really-
is like its own conference.
I don't really see Colorado fitting very well in the Big Ten because of their academics, for one, and another thing. It's going to take some time for them to get up to be a competitive and get their fan base back. I think they're making a big mistake.
That is true.
Colorado is AAU, which means their academics are high. You got to be in the top 70 in the country to
Yeah,
keep that ranking. So
that's why the Big
I
Ten
don't know
wants
much
them
about
because they're
Colorado,
AAU
but
status.
yeah, to have an AAU, you have to be a top academic school. I think Colorado fits in any conference. Think about it. They're very diverse. Them and Utah, you could stick them in any conference. They're very diverse, from very religious to very hippie. So,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I got nothing much to say about that. Yeah, you hit it right on the head.
Yeah, I'm just scared that it's basically what the Big Ten has shown us is how many cable subscriber boxes there are in the city, and that's where they're cashing their checks. It's not even brand. SEC is cashing checks on brand, and the Big Ten is cashing it on cable subscribers and satellite subscribers. So,
Yeah, a lot of people are not realizing that the future of college football is going to go to streaming. So you better believe that a lot of these conferences are looking at what kind of numbers they're doing on the streaming. You know, like ESPN streaming, Fox streaming, all that stuff, because people are turning more to those streaming services. So 100% they're looking at those streaming numbers to see, you know, because some teams might do better on you know, TV, and some teams do better on streaming. West Virginia is actually a perfect example of that, because not a lot of our games are on TV. Sometimes they are because Big 12's with Fox, but not a lot of them. But most of them are on streaming, and whenever they're on streaming, West Virginia actually does really good numbers over streaming. So that's going to be looked into for the future. Now, they're still going to factor in, you know, games on TV, of course, because that's still a big deal. But the future is streaming.
yeah, there's more money in streaming.
Yeah.
I think they should do something for the poorer person of the streaming, though. I think they should offer, you know, people that don't have the money to pay out for all this streaming to get the games to them. I mean, I know that don't help their wallet, but you know, you got to keep your fan base in the numbers.
Yeah.
Now, let me give you guys a breakdown of so I lived in Utah. I'm living in Florida now. And
Nice.
in order to be able to get the Pac-12 network, I had two options. I had to pay $75 a month to be able to get Pac-12, and Utah pretty much gets they're on all the regular channels. Very rarely are they on Pac-12, but it was $75 a month, or I could get Dish Network, and with Dish Network, I get Big 12, Big 10, SEC, ACC. I get them all, and so I cut my cable and got Dish Network so I could get everybody. But
Right.
if that subscriber, see, on the West Coast, I could get it for $30 to stream the pack. Out here on the East Coast, it's almost $80.
For
So
the Pac-12?
yeah, yeah.
Holy crap.
I found it on 3 separate streaming services, but they were all $80.
Why? What? Why? I'm not understanding that.
Because I had to buy some kind of a package with like 200
Oh.
channels with an extra package to get the Pac-12.
Gotcha.
So I did
And
my homework. Yeah.
Mountaineer Nation, if you have internet, go get you a Fire Stick. That will help you get
Yep.
your games.
Yes, that
Yep.
that's a good that's a good suggestion. I agree with that. Absolutely. So think about this, guys. All right, so kind of switching over to kind of the regular season, all right? So we all remember the national championship, and as college football fans, whenever the national championship is over, it's almost like, man, it's going to be forever until the next season rolls around. But here we are, less than 4 weeks away from the first kickoff of the college football season. How excited is everybody?
I'm
I'm
really
stoked.
excited.
I got tickets.
stoked.
I got tickets to Gainesville.
Nice.
I can't wait for the backyard brawl and watch my Mountaineers
definitely
just
gonna watch
walk
that
all
game.
over them.
That's going to be a nasty game.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there.
What time's the backyard brawl?
It's on a Thursday night. I think
7:30.
7:30.
On Thursday. That's right. I was going to be able to watch that.
So the cool
Yep.
thing is we actually had kind of a family getaway going up there during that time anyways. And this was planned before I knew that I was going to the backyard brawl. So we have family that still lives up there, right? So we planned a little getaway to where we're going up there, and they live near Charleston. So we was going to Charleston. And then I found out the backyard brawl was on that Thursday. We're leaving on Wednesday, so we're already up there. So instead of me having to drive all the way from upstate South Carolina to Morgantown, which is probably like 12 hours, we're already going to be up there in Charleston. So I only had to drive like 3 hours to the game and 3 hours back. So it worked out perfect. And I've never, this is going to sound crazy because I've been a lifelong Mountaineer, but I have never been able to go to a backyard brawl. This is the first time that I'm ever going to be able to see this live. So I'm super excited.
Nice.
I try
I've
to
never
explain
been-
it around here to Clemson fans because I live near a lot of Clemson fans. I'm like, that's the same thing as going to the Palmetto Bowl, Clemson versus South Carolina. And whenever I mention that, they're like, oh, okay, I understand now. You got to relate it to whatever rivalry you're near because they don't understand it.
Yeah, it's like
I'm
the Egg
50
Bowl.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
50. I'm 52 years old, and I've only been to one West Virginia game, and that was West Virginia against Virginia Tech at home.
When was that?
That was back in '92.
Oh, wow. Okay, I got you. So that was the year before our undefeated season. That was some good
Yep.
times back there. So in my
Yep.
entire lifetime, hold on, I've been to, this is just West Virginia games. I've been to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think this will be my 9th game. I know. Oh man, Gold and Blue, I thought you've been to 100. Well, no, I live in upstate South Carolina, so it's kind of tough for me to get up there. But this will be my 9th game. Now that I have this YouTube channel and I'm starting to gain access to Morgantown and WVU, I'll be able to go to like 4 or 5 games. Probably all the home games from now on. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I've just never had the money, to go to the games. And not only that, after being there, to me, it's better. I can see more watching from home.
Yeah, it depends on what sight lines you have. Usually I get the best sight lines at Mountaineer Field, in my opinion, is mid upper deck or basically avoiding the corners in the end zone. I don't like the sight lines of the end zone. But if you're on the sides, especially in the upper deck, if you're just trying to get a good view, that works out great. If you want to be close to the action, of course, get lower bowl. But really, the only bad sight lines as far as Mountaineer Field goes is the corners. Don't like the corners at all, especially if you're near the visiting, because they get near the weight room there on the left corner. That's where they sit the visitors. Usually they give them like 5,000-7,000 tickets, something like that. And I don't like being near the visitors. That one year, it was, what year was it? I want to say 2019. Or no, it might have been 2017. We played Oklahoma at home, and we sat right next to the Oklahoma fans and that band, and they would hold that note of Boomer Sooner on a third down, and it was so annoying. Whenever West Virginia had a third down, and it was a home game, so it was at West Virginia, but we had a third down, and they would hold that last note of Boomer Sooner, and it was driving me nuts. I hated that.
Wow. That would drive me nuts too.
It was not, that part wasn't fun. Sorgy Stories.
I'm right here.
There you go. I was going to let you know you were muted. What's going on, buddy?
I just wanted to stop in because I can't stay. We're live right now, but I just wanted to say prayers to Joey and his family. I hope everything gets better there. And go Mountaineers. That's all I got.
I appreciate that, buddy. He's doing much better, so things are looking hopeful at least.
All right, I'll see y'all later.
All right, buddy. Thanks for stopping
Yep.
by.
No problem.
So last year, I remember the first game of the entire season was, what was it? Central Arkansas versus Austin Peay. It was like two FCS teams.
Yeah.
Something that I would not watch like by week 9, week 10, but it was the very first game, and I was super, super excited. I even did a prediction video on two FCS teams. That's how excited I was. I just love college football, so I don't care.
We
I
need
don't
more
know
of
the
those.
official first game. I don't know who it is, but I'll find out whoever it is. Whatever that first game is, whether it's on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, I don't care. I'm going to watch it. I don't care if it's between two FCS teams. I'm watching it. And that was actually a pretty good game.
I think there was Army and Navy, wasn't it?
An FCS fan.
Wasn't Army and Navy going to be the first game of the year?
Usually that's the last game of the year.
Yeah, it's like the very last game.
Yeah, because they have it all to themselves. I think it's like week 14 or week 15, something like that. It's the week after the regular season. Well, most everybody's regular season.
I think it's week
but
15.
the week before conference championship. So they have their own week, just Army Navy. But this year, I don't know who the very first game is, actually. I probably should know that by now, but I definitely remember last year, and it was two FCS teams. It was actually a pretty good game. A lot of offense.
That was us. The very first game last year was us versus UAB in Montgomery.
What game was
It was
that?
on a Wednesday.
What game was that?
UAB versus Jacksonville State in Montgomery.
Okay. Was that before Central Arkansas and Austin Peay?
Oh, you're talking. No, the UAB JSU game, that was last year. You're thinking about the COVID year, I think.
Oh, okay. You might be right.
Yeah, last year the very first game was UAB versus Jacksonville State in Montgomery. That was on a Wednesday night.
Gotcha. So let me get y'all's opinion about this. With the Big 12 and the Pac-12 going to war, they can play the whole tongue-in-cheek game, whatever. Hey, we're really friends. We're not going to go. No, they're going to. Survival is going to win out in this, okay? So the war between the Pac-12 and the Big 12, who do you think is going to come out on top? And why?
Big 12.
Big 12.
Because they're more stable.
The Big 12 is more
Big
stable.
12.
Okay. Who do you think the Big 12 is going to get out of the Pac-12 then?
AU, AZ, and probably Utah, possibly Cal.
So you're going with Arizona State, Utah, and Cal.
Yeah.
Okay. Larry, what about you, buddy?
The four corners, or USC threw the first torpedo, and Oregon's going to make sure that the conference gets finished off. I think Kevin Warren's playing a game. I don't think it's going anywhere, and so I think the four corner schools are probably going to bolt.
So you think Utah, Colorado, and the Arizona schools?
Yep.
I think that's a pretty good guess. The only question about that one is Colorado going to the Big Ten since they acted? I don't know if they actually backed out of their application, but they're acting like it. So,
Well, should we go ahead and should we trust the gentleman up there named Warren with his hand? Did he shake the hand of the AD at Colorado and say, "Hey, buddy, we got a spot. Just give us a minute"?
Exactly. I don't know.
Like,
Nobody
no.
knows.
Yeah, it makes sense because, like, I think Tony was talking, or you were talking about it. You have votes, right?
Yep.
Like, everybody gets votes. Big Ten would love the Pac-12 to not have any power at all. They'd love to have nobody have power.
It's true.
How do you do that? You just tell Oregon, hey, maybe we'll let you in and watch them destroy the Pac-12. That's what they're doing.
Oh, I got you. So like
Oregon is
sabotage.
destroying the Pac-12 right now.
You're talking about sabotage.
We won't sign a long-term grant. Big 12 sitting there, and it's like, I mean, I'm a Utah fan, so I mean, I have my own bias.
Right.
But in all honesty, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't say that's a good program to grab.
Right.
I really don't.
I got you.
Hey, Larry, I agree with that point, and it could be just all big smoke screen just to throw off the Pac-12.
Can't rule that out either. Can't rule that out either.
Yeah, Warren's a snake. He's already snaked the Pac-12. He ain't done. He ain't going to take anybody besides Stanford. And that's just to appease Notre Dame. But Notre Dame don't want in the Big Ten. They don't. They've offered them, 20 years?
That's a fact, actually. Notre Dame has turned down the Big Ten.
And they still won't join the
I think
ACC
they
in
turned them down
football.
5 times. They've turned them down 5 times. I know this is the most money that's at stake for the Big Ten and Notre Dame, but from what I heard, they still want to stay independent as long as they can draw $75 million a year. So it's still looking like Notre Dame is going to say no to the Big Ten. Now,
can you blame them? I mean, really, can you blame them? Look at the ACC getting a 36, to 2036. They don't want to sign the long period contract.
Yep.
Right. And plus, you gotta remember that clause that they have in their contract with the ACC, where if they join a conference, it has to be the ACC. If they join a conference, it's in their contract. If Notre Dame does decide to join a conference in football full time before 2036, it has to be the ACC.
Yeah, and I've heard that's an $80 million fine for them if they,
Right. Well, that would probably be like $80 million a year because $80 million in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot. I would probably think that the fine is heavier, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Anthony Zappin, thank you for the $5 donation, says, Warren is a Notre Dame grad. I didn't know that. Okay. He will weasel and do anything to force Notre Dame into the Big Ten. Well, that last part of your comment, there is no forcing Notre Dame into anything. But I get what you're saying. He's trying to stack the deck to where Notre Dame has no better choice but to join the Big Ten. That's why he's pushing for this playoff expansion. And they could threaten, hey, Notre Dame, if you're not in the conference, you can't make the playoffs. That's the one thing that could force Notre Dame to join.
Is the Big Ten going to get to 23 teams just to get Notre Dame there? Would they do that?
Yeah, I think they would.
Yeah, probably.
Honestly, yeah. I think
If they would, then I could see where. But the thing is Notre Dame doesn't want to move. And, I mean, in all honesty, the ACC's locked in. I've done contracts, construction, real estate. They're in a lease. They're not getting out of it unless they get 8 members. Right. Who's going to break it up? Who's going to break up 8 teams? SEC isn't taken between Big Ten and SEC. Do you think they'll take 8 teams?
Well,
no.
You got to throw in the Big 12 as well. What if
Big 12?
Think about this.
I'm a realist.
What if the Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC are working together just to get They're like, we all want something out of this. Okay, we're competitors. We can agree on that, but we all want something out of the ACC. So SEC, you convince Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, and instead of Virginia, we'll say they switch to Miami. I know they don't like Miami, but just for the sake of argument, SEC, you convince Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and Miami. All right. Big Ten, you convince the Virginia schools, Virginia and Virginia Tech. Big 12, you can convince maybe a Pitt and Louisville because, that's great rivalries with West Virginia. There's your 8 teams right there. And then does Notre Dame have a vote? That's my biggest question. I know they're not a full member, but would their vote count?
Right. But see, we're speculating.
Yes.
What the Big 12 is going to get in a TV contract.
Right.
So do you think I'm not buying it. Look, I'm a Utah fan and I'm not opposed to the Big 12. Even if they got a 35, I just don't see the Big 12 keeping the same rate without Texas and Oklahoma. I know there's an increase in revenue to a degree, but I just don't see the Pac-12 or the Big 12 getting more than $35 million. I just don't.
I think the Big 12, if they got the right teams out of the ACC, and the big jackpot would be getting Oregon and Washington from the Pac-12. That would be jackpot.
Right. I agree.
If they could pull some moves like that, I think they could approach the $70-75 million range, but nothing like the SEC or Big Ten.
No. So I think these lateral moves aren't going to happen. To go.
But at the same time, they want to survive.
Expensive.
At the same time, they want to survive. So some of these decisions might be based on, even if it doesn't bump up our value significantly, it keeps them from getting those teams and then putting us out of business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too that
numbers count, guys.
Yeah.
Numbers count.
Big Ten.
Yep. Money
Big
talk.
Ten was supposed to have their contract done and reported, and then they added USC, UCLA, and now they're projecting August 15th to come out to announce their deal. So, are they really going after some Pac-12 teams? Because they should already have that worked in.
Well, here's the thing. What I'm hearing is, as far as USC and UCLA goes, that they're going to progressively get to the cut that everybody else has. In other words, their first year, they're not going to be making as much as everybody else. Their first year, they're looking at $70 million, which is way more than what they're making in the Pac-12. So their first year, around $70 million. The next year, I think they said around $85 million. And then by their third or fourth year, that's when they'll be at full, at a full share with the rest of the Big Ten. That's from my understanding. I could be wrong.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Right.
That's still way more money than what they would ever make at the Pac-12. So we could be looking at something like that. And maybe that's one of those deals that, the Big 12 could be trying to work out with some of these teams from the ACC. But then again, that wall that everything hits is that grant of rights. That is the one thing that they would have to get around. They would have to convince those 8 teams to get that lifted. Otherwise, none of this is happening.
Well, I tell you like this.
Right.
I think your mark is going to make that announcement tomorrow for some teams to come in. And I think AU has been talking to others and trying to get them to come in with them. So that way they're not just coming in by themselves.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like Tony Altimore says, USC and UCLA are full members. I know Oregon wanted to get in and only have the Big Ten pay them what they were worth. And that's why people were saying like $60 million. So Oregon, Phil Knight was trying to get them $60 million. Look, we don't want the 100. Just give us 60 and we're in.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Well, what about the rumor that I heard earlier about the Pac-12 seeking Gonzaga? What in the world would that do?
You were the first person I heard that
That's
from.
a smoke screen. That's a smoke screen because they don't have no value with football whatsoever. The only thing they got is basketball, and I don't think Pac-12 makes that much money in basketball because they're a lousy basketball team, except besides Arizona and possibly UCLA.
Right.
And Oregon and probably Washington, but the rest of them not as good.
Well,
Yeah,
Oregon State make it to the Sweet 16.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. But if they really are serious about thinking about bringing in Gonzaga, that would make no sense to me. Gonzaga, don't get me wrong, they have a great, great, great basketball brand, but they don't even play football. They don't even play football. So how does that help? It doesn't. So if the Pac-12 did that, that would just show you the I don't know, the ignorance that's going on over there. They don't know what's going on. They're making stupid decisions.
If they even
I think you got
about
a
adding
commissioner
Gonzaga,
there
that's
that
just gonna
don't know
give the Big
what he's
12 in
doing.
the four corners the green light to just you're with us now. Forget the Pac-12.
Let me ask y'all this: what does the Pac-12 need to do to survive?
They need to somehow get some
Not
Power
get
5 teams, but I don't see that happening. I don't see them making enough money to pull any Power 5 teams in.
That's the
They
problem.
can stay at 10 like the Big 12.
First step, you have to keep Washington and Oregon from bolting. If they go, the Pac-12 is done as a Power 5 conference. Maybe they survive as a conference, but they're not a power conference anymore. So my question was based on the Pac-12 staying a Power 5. So first step, you have to keep Oregon and Washington from bolting. The second step is a lot of people are talking about, hey, go out and get San Diego State. Hey, go out and get Boise State. Hey, I mean, those are decent brands for Group of 5, but if the Pac-12 wants to remain relevant in a power conference, they're going to have to turn their attention to the Big 12 and try to get some teams out of the Big 12.
Well, we
And
said this
trust
about the
me,
Big 12.
those two schools do not push the needle that far enough for them to be a Power 5, so that would be a lousy decision.
Exactly.
Do you
100%
remember?
agree.
Do you remember back when the Big 12 added 4 Group of 5? And you can say I'm a Utah fan, so I'll call BYU a G5 because they've never been a Power 5. They went from a G5 to an independent. Either way, remember the blowback that the Big 12
we were saying the
got
exact same thing
when they brought in 4 G5s? Everybody said you're not a P5 anymore. You know,
I don't know. I have to disagree with that
keep
because Brigham Young has got a great program.
You can't keep backfilling with Group of 5 teams.
BYU does have a great program. I'm a Utah
guy. That's just not how it works. You can't.
And you can call Conference USA as a glorified FCS conference. I'll say it. I'm a Jacksonville State fan.
I would agree with that, and I have no idea why Liberty decided to join the Conference USA. I thought they would join like the Sun Belt or the AAC. I think they're a good enough brand to join at least one of those two. When they joined Conference
had
USA,
too much religious baggage.
The only thing that makes sense about Liberty joining Conference USA is they know they can own it. That's the only thing.
For now.
Yeah.
Because their brand is at an all-time high. Ever since they got Hugh Freeze, they've been having 10-win seasons. I mean, really good for Liberty. Going to Conference USA, I'm like, man, that's not going to help your brand at all right now. And a lot of people are like, "Go on, Blue Dude, you say that word way too much. Brand. Well, that's what this is all about. Making the value of your brand. It's not about how good of a football team you are on the field, because Boise State has put out some pretty good football teams out there. It's about your brand. How much is your brand worth?
Right. And
well,
just like to make my point with Brigham Young, look how long they was independent and stayed relevant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That says a lot for their program and for them to be a Power 5. So that their argument is big.
I've always been on the fence with BYU as far as considering them a Power 5 or a Group of 5. I've actually leaned more towards Group of 5, but the last couple of years, I think they've looked like a Power 5 team. They've had some, like, past 5 years, they've had a lot of 10-win seasons, actually. And when they lost Zach Wilson and still had a good season after that, like a really good season, it made me notice them.
Yeah, remember when Utah
that says a lot
for
were Group of 5?
Say it again.
Remember when Utah and TCU were both Group of 5?
Yes, sir, I do.
Yep, they were invited to the Power 5, and now I guess you can't really say the same for TCU, but Utah has become really the daddy of the Pac-12.
Yeah, in just a little over a decade,
Utah TCU was in the Big 8
to a Group of 5 team to a Power 5 champion, winning the Pac-12.
Yep, and going toe-to-toe with one of the most established brands in college football, Ohio State.
Yes, and not just that, but they pack out. They're not one of these teams where they have success and their fans are interested. You watch a home game for Utah on TV, and that stadium is absolutely packed out.
But I tell everybody right now, the team that you're going to have to watch out for coming in, and that's going to be Cincinnati. Cincinnati is really good.
Oh yeah,
I do think Cincinnati's really good, but
I think
if you watched them
UCF
last
is the
year,
sleeping
they
giant.
struggled against lesser opponents throughout the year. And don't get me wrong, I do think they earned their way into the playoffs. I'm not going against that argument. I think they earned their way in. They did beat Notre Dame convincingly, and they did go undefeated. But I'm not sure if Cincinnati at this moment is set up to where they can go week in and week out against Power 5 opponents and have the success that they just had. I don't know if they're set up for that or not.
They just got a great recruiting class this year. So,
yeah,
that says a lot for them.
What number was that?
I believe it was 24th.
24th. That's actually pretty good for a group of 5. Was that 2022 or 2023?
2022.
Let me make sure.
yeah.
So I didn't know
they're going to be a
that. That's
dangerous
actually,
team in 24, 25.
Yeah.
Because
they might actually
the
be
Big
saving
12,
themselves
how they
some
are
wins.
now, they have
That's,
Oklahoma
that's really
State,
good.
they had West Virginia. I mean, outside of those two, who really is set up to dominate except maybe BYU?
BYU,
Oklahoma State,
I would
brother.
say BYU for sure.
So we have BYU, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Cincinnati, maybe Central Florida if Malzahn can wake the sleeping giant with them being one of the
Houston.
largest campuses in the nation.
Houston. Watch out for Houston.
Oh, Houston. I completely forgot about Houston.
I'm seeing number 42 for 2022 247 rankings for Cincinnati.
It's slated to go up because I've seen some moves they've been making in the off season. It's slated to go up. They just haven't got to them yet.
Yeah, they say
Baylor,
right now
that's the corner just said Baylor. I
3
forgot about
4
them, too.
stars and 16 3 stars. Which actually is one more 4-star than what West Virginia had in 2022. We had two 4 stars and 23 stars. So they got one more 4-star than what we got.
Ooh.
Was TCU in the Big 8?
What?
I forgot.
Was TCU in the Big 8? Weren't they in the same conference years ago as Texas and Oklahoma, or no? And then they got booted, went to the Mountain West.
Or was that the Southwest? Are you talking? Are you thinking Southwest or Big 8?
Way back.
Oh, yeah,
I think it was Southwest.
But they played with Texas and Oklahoma years back.
Yeah, before.
Wasn't Rice also in that conference?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was like the Southwest. I don't know.
Yeah,
Southwest
Rice was
conference.
in that conference.
Yeah,
So
it was the Southwest and
Yeah, Rice was in that conference. That was back when Rice was good in the 50s.
Yeah.
So TCU went from a Power 5 or whatever, went from the big boys to the Mountain West back to the big boys.
I'd be more confident in Cincinnati if last year they absolutely obliterated every group of 5 team that they played. To their credit, they beat everybody. They beat Notre Dame convincingly, but we saw them struggle against lesser opponents. In the Big 12, you're not going to have these breathers except for Kansas. Because even with Texas Tech, Texas Tech is probably better than 2/3 of the AAC right now. So even the lower teams in the Big 12 is going to be better than the majority of the AAC. Can they keep that type of workload and actually have, the same type of success? And I'm not saying they're not going to have any success. I think they can be a competent, 8-4, 9-3 type of team, but undefeated, winning the conference, getting to the playoffs. I'm not sure about that. I'm not quite sold.
But I seen this, Golden Blue Dude, when you had Notre Dame schedule up. I seen Marshall on there. I feel so bad for Marshall. They're gonna get spanked. I'm sorry, they're gonna get spanked.
Too. I'll be smiling too. I ain't even worried about that. I'm hoping they run up the score. Actually,
that would be
does
lovely.
not hurt my feelings at all. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that Cincinnati is 3-18 all. Thank you, Nightbot. Nightbot reminded me. Cincinnati is 3-18 all time against West Virginia. Cincinnati was in the Big East for a short time whenever they kind of overlapped with West Virginia before it turned into the AAC, and they did not fare very well against West Virginia. They did okay. They weren't a terrible team, but they weren't this dominating brand that everybody thinks they are. And I'm not trying to trash talk Cincinnati. Do not get me wrong. I think they're going to be just fine in the Big 12. They're going to be fine. I just think a lot of people are putting too much stock in Cincinnati, thinking that they're going to come in and just start, dominating the Big 12 right off the bat. I don't think that's the case at all. That's just me.
I don't think they're going to dominate, but I think they'll be in the bowls a lot more because the Big East, that helped them to understand that they had to recruit, at a higher level. And they have been doing that pretty good. And so I look for them, I say a good 4 years, and they'll be relevant in the Big 12.
I see Cincinnati being a good 8+ win team for like the first 3 or 4 or 5 years in the Big 12, and then they'll start building themselves up to maybe a 9-10 win team.
That's fair. Everybody in the comments, if you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up. It helps hit the YouTube algorithm, gets the video suggested more. That's how we build our audience. Now we have over 100 people watching, which is really good for a Sunday night. Not a lot of people are interested in watching live shows on Sunday night. So the fact that we have over 100 people watching is amazing, and it's because people have been hitting the thumbs up. So if you haven't, please do that. It helps the video significantly, and it's simple, easy, fast, and free. But if you have a question for me or any of my guests, or you have a comment, or you want to make fun of us, hey, super chat. That is that little $sign down on your bottom right-hand corner. Anything you put in that super chat, I will put on the screen like you see here with Anthony Zappin. If it's a question, I'll read it. We'll address it. If it's a comment, same thing. And hey, if it's a troll and you're making fun of me, I'll still put it up there because we greatly appreciate you supporting the channel. So, if Notre Dame doesn't decide to join the Big Ten, I know that they've threatened to keep Notre Dame out. Would they actually go through with that? If Notre Dame ultimately decides to not join a conference, would the Big Ten and the SEC follow through with their threat and keep Notre Dame out?
That's up in the air. I can't say one way or another on that one because that would be a hard decision. I can't say for. I say it's a possibility.
I do too. I agree with that. And I think it would be okay if their ultimate goal is to get Notre Dame in a conference. I think that's a good tactic. And maybe they come up with a plan. They're like, all right, guys, we'll keep them out for the first 5 years. If they haven't folded by then we'll give in and give a time limit because Notre Dame is a good brand and they do draw in money and they do draw in eyeballs. But at least make Notre Dame think that you're serious. Year 1, hey, we're keeping you out. Year 2, still not in the conference. We're keeping you out. Year 3, you still haven't joined. You're out. Year 4. And if they get to year 5 and Notre Dame still hasn't joined, then they're like, okay, all right, we can clearly see that you're not joining a conference, so we'll let you back in the playoffs. Maybe they pull something like that. I don't know.
I think Notre Dame is sitting back and just waiting to make their strategic move to hurt somebody. I say that's what it's about because they want the attention. They want everybody looking at them. I mean, that's just part of who Notre Dame is. That's
I
the way they
like that comment. Okay, I like that comment. All right, let's stick with that. If Notre Dame wants to hurt somebody, who do you think most likely they're going to hurt? Whether it's a school or a conference, who?
Well, you look in the past. Big Ten has hurt Notre Dame in the past. So who's to say that they don't come back to bite them in the rear?
Okay, so you think Notre Dame could have a vendetta against the Big Ten and they want to hurt the Big Ten. What about you, Larry? Do you think if Notre Dame were to try to hurt somebody, who would it be?
I don't think they try to hurt anybody. I don't think they would. I think when the ACC falls is when they'll make their move.
Okay, that's acceptable. Yeah. What about you, TND?
Yeah, pretty much what he said is they're just going to wait until the ACC crumbles, and then they'll make their move, join the Big Ten.
I kind of agree with y'all too, except I'm going to take a step further. Maybe they're actually trying. Maybe they're going to actually try to hurt the ACC. Y'all kind of danced around it and said they're going to wait till the ACC falls. What if they're actually going to contribute to the ACC falling?
I believe that too.
Could you see that happening?
Yeah, because of
the ACC was in
lousy
panic
TV deal.
mode.
Yeah, even though Notre Dame has said some nice things about the ACC, that 1 year that they were a full-time member in the ACC, that was the 1 year that they made the most money. They got their NBC money and they got a slice of the pie of the ACC, but it still wasn't that much. So maybe that was just a bunch of bantering, and really they're going to help, these other big conferences. So that leads into my next thought. What if Notre Dame is working with the Big Ten and the SEC, not required to join either of those two conferences? They want them to join, but it's not required, as long as Notre Dame helps them take down the ACC. Is that possible?
To break the grant of rights. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So that seems like that could be a possibility.
I agree with that too.
What do you think?
Yeah,
Larry?
I believe so.
I don't know. Were they just added Texas and Oklahoma? I mean, I don't know if the SEC needs to do anything.
Well, I would agree with that, but I think
You
the
can take-
end goal is for the Big Ten and the SEC to eventually get to that magic number, whatever, if it's 20, 24, I don't know. But the common thought is that eventually when they get to that number, they're going to break off and, from the NCAA, create their own rules, create their own playoffs, blah, 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 blah. But they want to make sure they have the best brands. Problem is, right now, some of those brands are in the ACC locked under that grant of rights.
And if you're the SEC, having the ACC teams that you're going to possibly bring in, the more handicapped they are in money, recruiting, whatever, the bigger gap you can create. Why would you drag them in when they're at the peak? You want to bring them in, but why would you bring them in hot? Let them.
Well, the counter to that would be the hottest
Let
teams
'em-
bring the most money, though.
But see, that you're missing the point. If they wait too long, then the Big Ten's going to come in and snatch the best ones out of it. And then what's the SEC going to do?
Yeah, this is a lot of mind games and a lot of waiting. None of us, I don't think, honestly, my gut feeling is I don't think anything is going to happen with the ACC, at least in the next couple of years, maybe in the next 5 years and beyond. But I don't know. I just don't. The more each day passes, the more that I don't think that's going to happen right now. I think eventually it does, but not at this point in time. If that makes any sense.
Well, they wanting to drive that on the back
I'm
end
thinking
down so
Notre Dame
it
is
saves
playing the
ESPN
ultra
more
long
money.
game.
Well, think about it like this: the ACC is going to be the toughest problem to solve. In the meantime, put that kind of on the back burner, and they could turn their attention to the Big 12 and focus on maybe an Oklahoma State, a West Virginia, a Baylor, maybe one of the Kansas schools or Iowa State, or even beyond that, and look in the Pac-12. You still have pretty good brands in the Pac-12 with Oregon, Washington, Utah, the Arizona schools, Colorado. So to me, it's figuring out the order that all this is going to happen. I think all those are going to fall, but what order do they fall?
I think the SEC is going to stay central. I don't think they're going to take that footstep out to the West. I think that's Big Ten that's going to do that. But
they've already done that too.
Right, and I see it happening again with Oregon and Washington, because they want those two markets.
I gotcha.
And I see them possibly going after maybe a Colorado, even though it don't make sense. You know what I mean? I somewhere closer to Central, where the ones further out west will have a place to go to. if you understand what I'm saying.
J-Dub, I was gonna drop the link, but this is actually not gonna be a longer show because I actually have to get up in the morning. I have a 4-hour drive I have to make in the morning, so we're actually not gonna go too much longer. But I can agree with that. I guess the biggest thing that I'm trying to figure out, it's not who's gonna fall. I think they all fall. It's what order are they gonna fall? And with the ACC grant of rights, that makes me believe that they're gonna be the last to fall.
I agree with that, and I see them picking WVU. I see them picking Baylor. I see them picking Oklahoma State and possibly a TTU.
Yep, I got you. So here's my order, and then I'll let y'all get your last word in. So my order of conferences falling. I think the Pac-12 falls first. I think the Big 12's after that, and then the ACC's after that.
Yeah, that's possible.
J-Dub, I did post a link earlier in the show. It's not going to go on much longer. I'm about to go. I have a 4-hour drive. We will do another live show, and you can go in tomorrow. Don't try to call me out in the comments section. You know I post the link all the time, and how many times have I posted it for you and you come in? Do not call me out in the chat. Yeah, he knows better than that nonsense. How many times has he been on the show? I mean, seriously, that's like a 3-year-old move. Come on, dude. But yeah, my order is Pac-12, Big 12, ACC. How do y'all feel about that one?
I think the Pac-12 will fall, and that'll keep the Big 12 sustained from a little bit longer. Because those teams will be jumping ship. I think the ACC will be next, and the 3 conferences will poach from them, and then you'll have the three big conferences. I don't think the Big 12 will be I don't think they'll be poached. They'll be like the bridge between the Group of 5 and the Big 10 and the SEC. I believe the Big 10 SEC, they're going to be doing their own thing. They'll probably break off from the NCAA. And then they'll be doing their own thing. Notre Dame could be walking the line between those two and the rest of college football. They could have their own NIT tournament that they could host in South Bend on NBC. So there's like a small playoff for them. And the Big 12 would be like the Power 5 conference of the new Division I, and then Division I reunites.
And with Stanford as a partner is a NID. IND.
Yeah, the NIT.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So before we get out of here, I like to do what we call the last word. I give all my guests their last whatever if it's about your team, conference, whatever, as long as you keep it college football related, we do last word. So we'll start with TND. What is your last word, buddy?
Pac-12 is screwed. West Virginia to the ACC. Big 10, SEC, best conferences.
Okay. I like it. Well done, buddy. Come on the show more often, all right, man?
I really should. Thanks for having me, Golden Blue Dude.
Anytime, man. Good job. We'll go to Larry Pilgrim. Last word, buddy.
All right. So the way I see it, in 10 years, we're going to have 3 conferences. We're going to have SEC, Big 10, and Big 12, and they will all be included because they can't leave them out. There'll be lawsuits up the butt. So that's where we're going to end up, 24-team, 3 conferences. Go Utes.
Makes sense. Come on the show more, all right, man? Kenny, last word, buddy.
Yes. I want to say something about your bet with Talkus Pitt. He needs to come on and start talking more about him getting ready to do the country roads, because I see that happening. I see that fruition, and it's going to happen. And GBD, I love you, bro. Great show, great content, and I'm praying for Joey.
I appreciate it, man. That was well said. We love you too, buddy. All right, there's your last words, and I promise the show would be longer, but I for real have a long drive tomorrow, and I got to wake up early, so I got to end this a little early. But I did want to get on here and do a live show, talk a little bit about the war between Pac-12 and the Big 12, and Just mention Joey Foster. He's done a lot, and he's meant a lot to me. He's done a lot for this channel. Freak accident last night. He lost his breath, fell out of his chair, and injured his back. He is conscious. He just can't talk. But there for a minute, he actually was clinically dead. He was not breathing. So at least it's heading in the right direction. So y'all keep your thoughts and prayers going out to Joey Foster, man. He's done a lot. He was the one person that saw something more in me before anybody else. I mean, now that the show is getting bigger, a lot of people are saying, congratulations, boy, and I appreciate that. But Joey's that one guy that saw it before everybody else, and he's the one that got behind me and started pushing me to do. He gave me the confidence that I have that you see. Judicial protest. Thank you for the $5 donation. Says, hope Joey Foster gets well. Amen. Shout out to Leland. Yeah, don't forget about Leland. He's the little guy that I met over at the hospital. He was going through an MRI. I think I don't think it was. I don't want to say epilepsy because they didn't say epilepsy, but I think he had some seizures and blackouts. So, yeah, shout out to Leland. We haven't forgot about you, buddy. We're still talking about you. Gophers beat West Virginia last year. Yeah, whenever they came out with that matchup for that bowl, whenever I did my prediction for that game, I was like, West Virginia fans, don't get your hopes up. We're not winning this game. It was a terrible, terrible matchup, and that's exactly what happened. So I agree with you on that one. And Will Clow, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Pray for Joey. Absolutely. Joey, we got your back. We're praying for you, man. We're thinking about you. So we hope that you get better, and we hope that you get better fast. And we need you here. We need you. You help Going to Blue to get to where we're at. But with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody that stopped by, everybody that watched, everybody that hit the like button. Remember, on the way out, still hit the like button. Even though we're not live anymore, people are going to rewatch this. And the more likes it has, the more it will get suggested. So on your way out, please hit the like button. Shout out to everybody that supported through Super Chat, everybody that came and talked to me, call-in show through StreamYard. We appreciate you. Great content, great supporters. But I got to get out of here, guys. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend. What little bit left there is. I know tomorrow's Monday, but enjoy what little bit of weekend there is left. And we're going to see you tomorrow. So even though it's Monday, we will have a live show. We'll get you through Monday. All right, guys? But until then, Going to Blue Dude is out.